Welcome back, dear friends, to another exciting episode of Exploring the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. We are on part 27, part 2, covering paragraphs 124 through 130. And without any further ado, dear friends, we'll have our opening prayer. Thank you so much.
O my God, thou seest me in my lowliness and weakness, occupied with the greatest undertaking, determined to raise thy word among the masses and to spread thy teachings among thy peoples. How can I succeed unless thou assist me with the breath of the Holy Spirit? Help me to triumph by the host of thy glorious kingdom, and shower upon me thy confirmations, which alone can change a gnat into an eagle, a drop of water into rivers and seas, and an atom into lights and suns. O my Lord, assist me with a triumphant and effective might, so that my tongue may utter thy praises and attributes among all people, and my soul overflow with the wine of thy love and knowledge. Thou art the omnipotent, and the doer of whatsoever thou willest. Abdul.
Thank you so much, Farzajan. Thank you. Well, my dear friends, welcome back to hopefully, we'll see, our final episode of the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. I'm going to share our screen to get right back into it. Here we go. So, dear friends, we're covering paragraphs 124 through 130. Here we go. Okay. And during these paragraphs in this set, we are also have been studying the promised days come. And so you're like, why are we studying the promised days come? It's because in the paragraph that we've been studying, the beloved guardian mentions, let me pull the exact quote. He doesn't obviously mention the promised day is come, because that was written in 1941, but he mentions in the catastrophic fall of the mighty monarchies and empires in the European continent, the allusions to some of which may be found in the prophecies of Baha'u'llah, the decline that is set in and is still continuing in the fortunes of the Shia hierarchy in his own native land, the fall of the Qajar dynasty, the traditional enemy of his faith, the overthrow of the Sultanate and the Caliphate, right? So all of these are addressed also in the promised day is come. And so the addresses to the rulers of the world is in the addresses of Baha'u'llah. And this is all mentioned also in the promised day is come. So as the promised day is come, it has expanded, not just this one paragraph in the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. So we're expanding the scope of the study. So in this, we'll be studying the tablets of Baha'u'llah addressed to the rulers of the world. So here we go. So most of the preeminent embodiments of power and sovereignty in his day became one by one the object of Baha'u'llah's special attention. And in our last session, we addressed why they were. It's because they held the authoritative authority over everything. They were the absolute rulers. They held the absolute control. So Baha'u'llah had to really write to the absolute rulers. So this was what His Holiness Baha'u'llah did. His Holiness Baha'u'llah, as well as to a lesser degree, the Blessed Ba, directed at the world's supreme leaders and religious leaders the full force of their messages. They invited them to heed their call They presented the truths of their respective revelations, expatiated on their woes and sufferings. They stressed the preciousness of the opportunities before the rulers and warned them. They warned them in ominous tones of the grave responsibilities which the rejection of God's message would entail. And lastly, they predicted, when rebuffed and refused, the dire consequences which such a rejection involved. So this paragraph summary in page 10 of Promised Days Come is a synopsis of exactly what all the tablets were about. Baha'u'llah directed to them, focused on these world religious leaders, invited them to listen to the call of Baha'u'llah. Then Baha'u'llah presented the truths of his message. He explained the sufferings of the manifestation of God, and then stressed the preciousness of the opportunities if you follow this, and then warned them over and over if you fail to do what you're supposed to do, the responsibilities, and warned them and predicted what would happen if you do not heed this call. So this is the in essence synopsis of the tablets to the rulers and leaders. The first one we're going to cover is this Emperor Napoleon III. There he is, and quite a mustache. Dear Farzad, you have a beautiful mustache. Do you plan to grow it out to be like Emperor Napoleon III? Yes, he's got some more, funny twirlies at the end. So Emperor Napoleon III, he was obviously French, Emperor of the French, the most powerful ruler of his day on the European continent. This is from the Beloved Garden. The most powerful ruler in his day on the European continent, and held the foremost rank in the political sphere. The Beloved Guardian also calls him a dreamer, a conspirator of a shifting nature, hypocritical and reckless. Wow, that's the Beloved Guardian describing him, right? Pretty strong. A conspirator, shifting nature, hypocritical and reckless. The tablets, the first tablet was sent from Adrianople, calling on the emperor to inquire into the condition of such as have been wronged. Who is the wronged? Baha'u'llah, right? The wronged one of the worlds, right? The second tablet, so there was two tablets, right? The second tablet was sent from Akka. So the first one was from where? Adrianople, right? So the second tablet was from Akka, reproving him. What does that mean? Telling him off. Very strong, reproving him and prophesying that for what thou hast done, thy kingdom shall be thrown into confusion, and thine empire shall pass from thine hands as a punishment for that which thou hast wrought. Wow, 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 right? Very strong. The result, Napoleon flung down the tablet, the first tablet, saying, if this man is God, I am two gods. So this is the reaction of the first tablet that Baha'u'llah sent from Adrianople. That's why Baha'u'llah on the second tablet told him off, right? And reproved him. So in the first reaction, Napoleon flung down the tablet and says, if this man is God, I am two gods. And he did not reply to Baha'u'llah, but his government offered material assistance. And Napoleon III did not reply to the second tablet. So this is Napoleon III. And here is a painting that Sue Podger, I don't know if any of you have met Sue Podger, wonderful, wonderful lady. She drew this painting. Painted the painting, that's what it's called. Painted a painting, and this is Emperor Napoleon III here, and he is throwing down the tablet of Baha'u'llah, casting it aside. in that dramatic moment, saying, if you are, a god, then I am two gods. And here, Sue made it a dramatic painting of this. The result, what transpired, right? Napoleon was soon himself engulfed by a catastrophe that hurled him into the dust. This is from the words of the beloved guardian. He was soon engulfed in a catastrophe that hurled him into the dust, and his entire army defeated in the greatest capitulation hitherto recorded in modern history. The Battle of Waterloo, right? You guys have heard of these things. He was exiled until his death into the island of Elba. It's a miserable. I mean, this guy was the king, emperor, worshipped. So he lost everything. And here's Napoleon III having a conversation with Bismarck after his defeat and capture at Sedan. And here's Emperor Napoleon III on his deathbed, dying, miserable, diseased. Next letter we're going to address. Okay, let me make sure I'm yep, excellent. So it's Pope Pius IX. Pope Pius IX, his characteristics. He was the supreme head of the highest church in Christendom, the Pope. He was holding the temporal as well as the spiritual authority. This is the words of the beloved guardian. Holding the temporal as well as the spiritual authority. The proclaimer of the church doctrine of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin and the new dogma of papal infallibility. Authoritarian by nature, a poor statesman, disinclined to conciliation. This is how the beloved guardian described him. He was a poor statesman, disinclined to conciliation, and authoritarian by nature, meaning very authoritarian. So the Baha'u'llah wrote a tablet to Pope Pius IX. Baha'u'llah declared that he who is the Lord of Lords is come. Incredible. Again, dear friends, I pause here. I encourage you to read these tablets in your own privacy, because to see the voice of God, Baha'u'llah, the manifestation of God in this day and age, speaking with such authority to these rulers. Remember, he was a prisoner in Adrianople, in Akka at this time. And writing to these rulers, he's writing to the Pope Pius IX. He's saying, he who is the Lord of Lords is come, and called on the Pope to turn towards thy Lord. The Pope was commanded to drink from the cup of life, and prefer it then to such as turn towards it. The cup of life, the spirit, right? But what happened? The tablet of Baha'u'llah precipitated the virtual extinction of the temporal sovereignty of the Supreme Pontiff. Pope Pius IX became the first prisoner of the Vatican. So, what happened? He lost his temporal sovereignty. He was no longer a ruler of the Vatican, and he was actually imprisoned there, and he became the first prisoner of the Vatican. Tsar Alexander II. Look at the jewels. Look at the wealth of these rulers and potentates and the characteristics. The omnipotent. Omnipotent means all-powerful. Tsar of the vast Russian Empire. The inaugurator of a retrogressive policy, which in the end proved fatal to both himself and his dynasty. This is the words of the beloved guardian. The inaugurator of a retrogressive policy, meaning going backwards. So he inaugurated something that was going backwards, a policy which in the end proved fatal to both himself and his dynasty. Here is Tsar Nicholas II and Empress Alexandra in coronation robes. Tsar Alexander II. Baha'u'llah called on the Tsar to incline their ear. Remember, this is a common theme. All the potentates, rulers, incline your ear. Listen to this word. Incline your ear unto the voice of God. And then warns him to beware lest thy sovereignty withhold thee from him who is the supreme sovereign. This is the message of Baha'u'llah. Listen. And then if you don't, I'm warning you. What happened? The reactionary policy of Alexander II ushered in a period of terrorism because it was a retrogressive policy. Remember the words of the beloved guardian? Culminating in his assassination. The absolutism and orthodoxy of Alexander III and Nicholas II resulted in a revolution which has scarcely a parallel in modern history. So here's a picture, the front page of French newspaper Le Petit Journal, depicting the massacre of Tsar Nicholas II of Russia and his family by the Bolsheviks, the half basement of the room. So this was assassination. They were terrorism, and they were all also killed. Kaiser William I, another one of these great leaders, the conqueror of Napoleon III. So he wrote to Napoleon III, he also wrote to the one that conquered him. So this is the other one. This is the conqueror of Napoleon III, Kaiser William I, the king of Prussia and the monarch of a unified Germany. So this is actually the guy that predates Adolf Hitler by a few rulers. Okay, so Kaiser William I, he was the monarch of a unified Germany. He was militaristic, autocratic, and imbued with antiquated ideas. This is the words of the beloved guardian, militaristic. He was an autocratic ruler, but also imbued with antiquated ideas. Baha'u'llah addressed William I in the Kitab Aqdas, warning him to take heed lest pride debar thee from recognizing the dayspring of divine revelation. And then prophesying the banks of the Rhine covered with gore, right? With blood. And that happened. We saw this in not only World War I, World War II, the banks of the Rhine covered in blood. Yeah. The result, William I sustained 2 attempts upon his life. He was succeeded briefly by Frederick III and finally by William II, the wrecker of his own empire, under whose rule war indeed became a religion of his country, leading to a catastrophe that was to dethrone him and his dynasty. Queen Victoria, this majestic queen, what a lady. Her sovereignty extended over the greatest political combination the world has witnessed. This is the words of the beloved guardian. Her sovereignty extended over the greatest political combination the world has witnessed. The sun never set on the British Empire, right? Think about the empire, that tiny little island. It's relatively small, but it had all the colonies, the United States, it had Australia, it had the Africas, it had the Indias, it had the Chinas. Think about that. What an incredible empire, the British Empire. Even today, it still has relative colonies around the world, still to this day. Queen Victoria, Baha'u'llah called on her, again, to do what? Incline thine ear. And it's not this ear, but the inner ear, right? Open your heart unto the voice of thy Lord, and to cast away all that is on earth. Now, very interesting. This is in the tablet to Queen Victoria. Baha'u'llah praised her. He praised her for having forbidden the trading in slaves. Remember, the British were one of the first to forbade slavery. The Americans kept that practice going. But the British, granted, absolutely true, they were one of also the first to start slaveries, as Portugal, Spain, and others were doing it. But Britain stopped it and then actually went after slavers. They sent the boats to go after slavers. But America saw the profit in the entire business and brought that business to the shores. And he praised her for having forbidden the trading in slavery, in slaves, and having entrusted the reins of counsel into the hands of the representatives of the people. So this is a copy here. This is the volume that contains various tablets revealed by Baha'u'llah, including his tablet to Queen Victoria. Here, this is displayed here at the British Library. This was on display at the British Library. It was lithographed probably in Bombay in 1893 with the handwriting of the famous Baha'i calligrapher Mishkin Ghalam. Pub quiz. Title of Mishkin Ghalam. Does anyone know? What is his title?
Mirza.
Yuda, you're saying something. What are you saying? What is the title of Mishkin Ghalam?
Mirza.
Mirza. Oh, not that. I'm not talking about Mirza. I'm talking, his title is Apostle of Baha'u'llah. I'm talking about Mirza, okay? Mirza, that means, a Mirza is someone that it's not someone that can read or write. It's more of a form.
The Shia.
It's nothing to do with Shia.
Farzad is saying born of a lineage.
Born of the lineage, exactly.
Yeah, Mir is short for Amir, and Za is born of.
Born of the lineage, exactly. So yeah, so it's not the Mirza. He has the title of Apostle of Baha'u'llah, and that is an incredible title. And I encourage you to also, in your spare time, look at who the apostles of Baha'u'llah, who are the disciples of Abdul Baha, because these are individuals in our faith that have rendered incredible service to the threshold of Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha. Who are they, their history, and also how did they, because remember, these are individuals like you and I, how did they make, per se, that time, and generate that love to Baha'u'llah, to Abdul Baha, right? How? Because every day we should become a greater lover of Baha'u'llah. Every day. That should be, as soon it will be January, right? That should be your New Year's resolution. How can I be a greater lover of Baha'u'llah? And so the reality is, these individuals were so emblazoned with love of Baha'u'llah. And so when we study their lives, we can look at their lives and then fall in love ever more. And then try to think about their lives and how can I become and work on my own life to become a better exemplar of being a Baha'i. So what happened? What happened after this tablet reached Queen Victoria? The result. Queen Victoria, this is from the Beloved Guardian. Queen Victoria, it is said, upon reading the tablet revealed for her, remarked, if this is of God, it will endure. If not, it can do no harm. If it's from God, it will endure. If not, it can do no harm. Very, very fair. You know, Baha'u'llah in the Epistle to the Son of the Wolf says, be fair in thy judgment. So this was very fair. Interestingly, Queen Marie of Romania, her granddaughter, was the first potentate to accept the faith. Her daughter, the daughter of Queen Marie of Romania, also studied the faith intensely, and that's the princess of Queen Marie of Romania studied the Kitab Iran with Queen Marie of Romania, and the princess did not openly declare as Queen Marie of Romania did and sent articles to the whole world professing her faith, but it was also through her studies also that princess was also loved the faith very much too. Riaz John, you have a hand, please.
Yes, it's about the previous slide with the open book. For the West, for Western cultures, I mean, I'm talking about the script in these writings. For Westerners, and well, especially for Western cultures who use the Latin script, this looks very this script looks very cryptic and very confusing and very distressing because you can't make out the letters. It's emotionally difficult to see how these wonderful tablets have been expressed in this script that looks so mysterious, so difficult. And in fact, in the West, we are used to if you look at on the left of the screen, we are used to the Latin script with the letters all separate, distinct letters, and everything seems to be clear. But on the right, that script seems to be very confusing. Now, it turns out that in those two languages, Persian and Arabic, the letters are never separated, like in the Latin on the left. They are all connected,
right?
As in what we call longhand. When in Latin script we write in longhand, that's what that is. Now, in the Latin scripts, we have longhand, and we have this type of print where each letter is separate. But in those two languages, there is no written text. There's no writing with the letters separate. The letters are all connected. That's what gives this very ominous look, that how can you decipher this? And in fact, it's not very easy. And Farzad can elaborate on it. But in writing of those two languages, the letters are not separate. They're in the form of longhand. One letter is connected to the next, and then to the next, and then to the next. The words are separate, but the letters are all connected as in longhand. That's why it looks like this. So it's not an easy task, even for the speakers of those languages. For example, the amanuensis who took down the revelation of Baha'u'llah, we can see in those 4 volumes of Taherzadeh, you can see that even he himself, who wrote those, he couldn't read his own handwriting because the letters are all jumbled, one after the other. He couldn't make out what he wrote, so he would go back to Baha'u'llah to decipher that. And then that's why we have Meshkin Alam, who when we keep talking about calligraphy and all, the calligraphy is to make this longhand more legible, more beautiful. So it's the Western cultures, they're right. This is difficult. It is not easy. It is difficult. And now Farzad and Ruhiya can elaborate a little bit.
No, I mean, I totally agree. Yeah, it's even for us Persians, of course, I only studied until middle school in Iran, but it's extremely difficult to read or write this kind of handwriting. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you so much for sharing, Riaz Jan.
Because like you said, it's not like every letter connects. Certain letters connect. Like A doesn't connect if it's in the middle of a word, doesn't connect with anything else. So you have to know what letter connects to what letter, and you can't separate them out. Yeah, extremely difficult to write or to read. Persian and Arabic, I'm sure it's even more difficult.
Very true. Very, very true. All right. Moving on. This is Emperor Francis Joseph. Okay. He was the autocratic king, emperor of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was the Austro-Hungarian monarch, right? The Habsburg monarch, the heir of the far-famed Holy Roman Empire. Beloved Guardian called him a reactionary ruler. So this is Emperor Francis Joseph. Baha'u'llah wrote a tablet to Emperor Francis Joseph. In the Kitab Ahdas, Baha'u'llah urged Francis Joseph to open thine eyes, that thou mayest behold this glorious vision, and chided him for having failed in his duty to investigate his cause. The result of the tablet to Emperor Francis Joseph: the house of the Habsburg was increasingly menaced by the forces of internal disintegration and was sowing the seeds of an external conflict, to both of which it ultimately succumbed. So this was the fall of the House of Habsburg, which is the fall of Emperor Francis Joseph. His entire monarchy collapsed, the Austro-Hungarian monarchy. Sultan Abdul Aziz. This is his characteristics as mentioned by the beloved guardian. He was the ruler of the Turkish house of Osman. He was the embodiment of the concentrated power vested in the Sultanate and the Caliphate. He it was who, through his farmans, had thrice banished Baha'u'llah. 3 times banished Baha'u'llah. This guy's got a special place in hell, right? So 3 times banished Baha'u'llah, and in whose dominions the manifestation of God spent almost the whole of his 40 years captivity. He was the first among the sovereigns of the world to receive the divine summons. So he was the first to receive the tablet. Sultan Abdul Aziz. So what happened, right? The tablet, this is the summary of the tablet. Baha'u'llah addressed Abdul Aziz in the Surah Muluk, saying, hearken, all of them, hearken, 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 hearken. Listen, listen, listen. Hearken, O king, to the speech of him that speaketh the truth, and calling on him to observe with thine inmost heart and with thy whole being the precepts of God, and walk not in the paths of the oppressor. Baha'u'llah also transmitted verbal message to the Sultan, requesting a 10-minute interview to enable him to produce whatever proof of his mission the Sultan might require. Isn't that similar to the blessed Bab wanting to meet with the king? He wanted to have that meeting with the king. So Baha'u'llah here also sent a message to the king himself, Sultan Abdul Aziz, and saying, I will have an interview with you, and any proof that you would like, I will make it so. To enable him to produce whatever proof his mission the Sultan might require. The Sultan was also referred to in other passages, the Kitab Akhdas, the Lohe Rais, the Lohe Fuad, and elsewhere. In the Lohe Fuad, Baha'u'llah prophesied, soon will we lay hold on their chief who ruleth the land. The text of Baha'u'llah's first tablet to Abdul Aziz is not available. So there was more than one tablet to the Sultan, and the text to that first tablet is not available. And we can find that reference in God Passes By. The Bab addressed the tablet to the predecessor of Abdul Aziz, Sultan Abdul Majid. As mentioned earlier, it's the Blessed Bab as well as Baha'u'llah wrote tablets to the rulers. So here's Sultan Abdul Aziz with all of his ornamentation that these rulers and potentates have on their garments. So what was the result? The Sultan's reaction can be gathered from the recital of the sufferings he inflicted on Baha'u'llah. Sultan Abdul Aziz fell from power and was murdered soon after Baha'u'llah's banishment from Adrianople. The Turkish Empire fell a prey during the reign of 5 successive sultans, all degenerate, all deposed, to a series of convulsions, which in the end proved fatal. The Ottoman Sultanate that had remained unbroken for 6.5 centuries was extinguished. 650 years, this Turkish Empire was in power. Sultan Abdul Aziz denied Baha'u'llah. The entire empire collapsed and fell a prey. And eventually he died. And this is his murdered body. This is a depiction of it, published. Sultan Abdul Aziz, murdered body, 1876. You can see the date, Constantinople, May 15, 1876. Nasir Shah, look at that mustache. This is not his mustache anyone should emulate, of this type of fellow. His characteristics, the despotic ruler of Persia and the mightiest potentate of the Shia Islam, a selfish, capricious, imperious monarch. He was a member of the Qajar dynasty that usurped the Persia throne. Usurped, stole it, usurped the Persian throne. Nasiruddin Shah, capricious, meaning changing, selfish, only thinking of himself. The tablet to Nasiruddin Shah. You all have heard the story of Bahá'í, right? Baha'u'llah called on the Shah to look upon this youth, O king, with the eyes of justice, and commanded him to decide then for me or against me. The Shah was denounced by Baha'u'llah as the prince of oppressors, the prince of oppressors. This tablet was Baha'u'llah's lengthiest epistle to any single sovereign. So this was his longest tablet, was to Nasiruddin Shah. The Blessed Bab addressed 2 tablets to Muhammad Shah, the predecessor of Nasiruddin Shah. The result, the Shah wreaked his vengeance on Baha'u'llah by arresting his messenger, a lad of about 17, by freighting him with chains, by torturing him on the rack, and finally slaying him. So the words of the beloved guardian. A triple darkness of chaos, bankruptcy, and oppression enveloped the country. Later, Nasiruddin Shah succumbed to an assassin's pistol. This assassination was the first portent of the revolution which was to depose the last 2 monarchs of the house of Qajar and extinguish their dynasty. Here is a picture of the pride of martyrs, the illustrious Bahá'í, right here. And back in the day, the jailers took pride in taking pictures with the ones that they were either ready to execute or torture. So this is a picture of Bahá'í here. So this is a picture of Nasiruddin Shah's body lying in state after his as we mentioned here, he succumbed to assassin's pistol, right? So this is a picture of his body being lying in state right here. And this is a zoomed out Nasiruddin Shah's body lying in state. So this is in 1896. This is what the Shah of Persia assassinated, shot by a fanatic at a shrine a short distance from Tehran. Lived but 2 hours after being removed to the palace. The assassin, who was disguised as a woman, promptly placed under arrest. The ruler, who has been on the throne since 1848, had many reforms in the conduct of the government, his successor. So this is published Sacramento Daily Union, May 1896. The Shah of Persia assassinated Nasiruddin Shah, right? So this is the outcome, the result of what happened. So let's find out more. So Mirza Reza Kermani, this is the assassin, was born in Kerman, Iran. He and other followers of Al-Afghani were demanding that the Qajar dynasty rule Iran justly. After Al-Afghani was expelled from Iran by the Qajars, Kermani began to openly and publicly criticize Qajar officials. Eventually, Kermani was imprisoned. His wife divorced him and his son was made into a servant. In 1895, he visited Jamal al-Din al-Afghani in Istanbul, and they planned the assassination of Nasiruddin Shah before Kermani returned to Iran. On May 1st, 1896, Kermani assassinated Nasiruddin Shah in the Shah Abdul Azim shrine. After killing the Shah, Mirza Reza Kermani escaped towards the border of the Ottoman Empire. Nasiruddin's successor, Muzaffar ad-Din Shah, sent a detachment of troops on on camels to find Mirza Reza Kermani to avenge his father's death. He was captured at the Ottoman border. After months of interrogation, Kermani was executed by public hanging on August 10th, 1896. And here is Mirza Reza Kermani before his public hanging, August 1896. And this is the public hanging of Mirza Reza Kermani, 1896. As I said, they like taking pictures of them before they execute people. This is what they took pride in. So that's how we have pictures of these moments. So I found that pretty interesting. That's the history of the aftermath of the assassination of Nasiruddin Shah. So now we're going to look at the specific tablets to the religious leaders. No less challenging and ominous is the voice that has warned and called to account the Mohammedan divines as well as the Christian clergy. These are the words of the beloved guardian. No less challenging and ominous is also the voice of Baha'u'llah that has warned them, called the Mohammedan divines and the Christian clergy. So let's look at these ones. The first, the Bab specifically revealed an epistle unto the divines of every city. He challenged the Muslim divines in Isfahan and appealed to them and warned them in the Qayyum al-Asma. So the Blessed Bab also revealed epistle to the divines. He challenged the Muslim divines and he also warned them in his great book, Qayyum al-Asma. Baha'u'llah, Holiness Baha'u'llah, condemned the divines who outwardly attire themselves with this raiment of knowledge, but inwardly are deprived thereof, and called upon them to lay aside that which ye possess and hold your peace and give ear, not just this ear, your inner ear, give ear then unto that which the tongue of grandeur and majesty speaketh. He prophesied that ere long all that ye possess perish, and your glory be turned into the most wretched abasement. And this is a quote from Corinthians. It says, such men are false apostles, deceitful workers, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ. No wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. Therefore, it is not surprising if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness, whose end will be according to their deeds. Remember, their deeds. What are you doing? So this is disguising themselves as an apostle of Christ. And here Baha'u'llah is condemning the divines who say outwardly, you're attiring yourself with this knowledge, but you're inwardly are foul. You're lacking, deprived thereof, saying you are false. You're false. You're disguising. Even in the book of Corinthians, it says, you are a deceitful worker. And here in the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 15, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. Outwardly religious, but inwardly corrupt. So here, this is just an extract also in the sense of this outward appearance of these so-called divines of his time that are supposedly having this outward appearance of knowledge, wisdom, and speaking of God, but inwardly are deprived thereof. They are literally like these false prophets in a sense. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. Then there's other tablets. Abdul Baha also announced the dire misfortunes which were to overtake the ecclesiastical hierarchies of both the Sunni as well as the Shia Islam. Dire misfortunes. This is the words of the beloved guardian. Dire misfortunes. The result, this is all promised days come. So I'm literally during this section, summarizing a lot of promised days come, because as you see, all the citations are at the bottom. The result, the Shia ecclesiastical order in Persia is to be held primarily answerable for the iniquities, which resulted in the martyrdom of the Blessed Bab and anguish to Baha'u'llah. This is still happening. This is not complete. As a result, there was set in motion an impelling process which has subordinated to the civil authority the position and interests of Muslim clericals. The sacerdotal hierarchy has now found itself the prey of a superior civil authority. The pomp and pageantry of these princes of the Church of Islam have already died out. These ecclesiastics have indeed merited the degradation in which they have sunk. Devastating indeed has been the havoc wrought in the fortunes of the Shia hierarchy in Persia. This is the collapse of Shia Islam. It is still at play. The process is still happening. And this is all because of the iniquities which have resulted in the martyrdom of the Bab, the anguish and suffering of Baha'u'llah, these twin manifestations. Now the other one, the result of the Sunni Islam. The Caliph had a sphere of spiritual jurisdiction which extended to countries far beyond the confines of his own empire and embraced the overwhelming majority of Muslims throughout the world. The forces of divine chastisement effected a revolution culminating in the collapse and fall of the Muslim Caliphate, the most powerful institution of the whole Islamic world. The disappearance of the Caliph brought in its wake the annulment of the Sharia, canonical law, the disendowment of the Sunni institutions, the promulgation of a civil code, the suppression of religious orders, the abrogation of ceremonials and traditions. Cataclysmic indeed has been the collapse of the most preeminent institution of Sunni Islam, and irretrievable the downfall of its hierarchy. This is also in motion. These two are in motion, the collapse of Shia Islam as well as the collapse of Sunni Islam. The tablets to the specific religious leaders. Baha'u'llah has directed particular messages, some general, others precise and challenging, to the heads as well as to the rank and file of the ecclesiastical orders of Christendom. He proclaimed that he verily is the one whom ye were promised in the books of God. Books, Biblos, right? Bible. So he's saying, I am the one that you were promised in the Bible, in the books of God, and called upon them to let the breeze of God awaken you. He promised that if ye choose to follow me, I will make you heirs of my kingdom. This is biblical language, how we heirs of my kingdom, right? Same voice, the voice of God. So he says, if you choose to follow me, I will make you heirs of my kingdom. Riaz John, if you could kindly read this one for us. Go ahead.
The result, the Christian clergy that have failed to acknowledge the sovereignty of Baha'u'llah as King of Kings are experiencing a widespread and significant crisis. Christian ecclesiastical orders are suffering a steady deterioration of their influence, decline of their power, damage to their prestige, dwindling of their congregations, a process which appears to be leading to the rapid de-Christianization of the masses. The powerlessness of the Christian ecclesiastics to halt fratricidal warfare between Christian nations indicates the decline of their influence. Steady and relentless is the process which has brought such destruction, shame, division, and weakness to the defenders of the stronghold of Christian ecclesiasticism, and black indeed are the clouds that darken its horizon.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So here is the result of the tablets to the Christendom. The Christian clergy that have failed to acknowledge the sovereignty of Baha'u'llah as King of Kings are experiencing a widespread, significant crisis. These are the words of the beloved guardian. Christian ecclesiastical orders, they're suffering a steady deterioration of their influence, decline of their power, damage to their prestige, dwindling of their congregations. Process which appears to be leading to the rapid de-Christianization of the masses. De-Christianization. They're not being Christian anymore. They've lost Christ. They've lost the powerlessness of the Christian ecclesiastics to halt fratricidal warfare, killing of brother to brother, fratricide. Warfare between Christian nation indicates the decline of their influence. So they cannot even stop warfare, these Christian countries. So it shows that they have no influence anymore. Steady and relentless is the process which has brought such destruction, shame, division, and weakness to defenders of the stronghold of Christian ecclesiasticism. And then the beloved guardian says, black indeed are the clouds that darken its horizon. Truly ominous. This truly. Riyazja, you have a hand, go.
Here in my area, in my cluster, there is a Baha'i scholar who has this is one of his favorite statements. When Baha'is in deepening classes, they say the Christian religion is still wonderful, and there are many Christian people who benefit from Christianity. His response always is, the power has been taken away from Christianity and Christian institutions. The power has been, once the Bab declared his mission, the power has been removed from Christian institutions, from Islamic institutions, and all other religious institutions across the world. The power has been removed because this is a new cycle. Their cycle, the prophetic cycle ended. The Bab terminated. I think explicitly, Shawq Effendi explicitly says The Bab terminated the Adamic cycle and inaugurated the cycle of fulfillment. So this Baha'i scholar is one of his favorite things to say, that the power, they are there, of course. There are the churches, the church institutions, the pastors, the ministries, the congregations, the Christian followers. They're all, of course, they're all there. They do their thing, and they worship, and they're very wonderful people. But the power has been removed. Anyway, I just want to.
No, you're absolutely correct. And this friend, Riaz Jan, is absolutely correct. But in our presentation, as we are teaching the cause, right, to whoever, we should always be cognizant of the heart and cognizant of the listener, so that our words will never offend or shake the friend, you know, in the sense. We have to be, but that does not mean that we say untruths, you know? We say absolute truths. We say everything correct, but not everything is timely, right? We also have to gauge the capacity of the hearer. Because sometimes the friends get very excited, as you mentioned, Riaz Jan. This might be the favorite thing of this person, and that this comes up in a point in time, and that might be overwhelming for another listener and might be disturbing. So we have to also, this is also in the, as I have mentioned in our study course when we were talking about Advent of Divine Justice, we went through teaching. When we present this faith, it is something that we should also, it should not be formulaic when we teach the cause. We should always try to read the other person's heart. That's why, so what can I open my mouth to say? We should create first a genuine bond of friendship with them before even mentioning the faith. Genuine bond of friendship. And how is a genuine bond of friendship started? Look at Abdul Baha. How does he form genuine bonds of friendship? Service. Service. That is the easiest way to form genuine bonds of friendship. What can I do for you? How can I help you? What can I do? Offer it to you. Look at genuine bonds of friendship. And it's not, and we also have to think genuine bond of friendship. So that even that genuine bond of friendship should not be under the guise to teach. You're doing it solely because that person should become a genuine friend. You follow? So the reality is, just by meeting you and being your friend, they will inherently learn about the faith, because you should be so imbued with the faith. It should be so part and parcel of who you are. You want to hear a funny story? This is a funny story. My dad and I work in the same company. We work for an oil company, right? And the faith is who I am. The faith is who my dad is. And everyone in our company knows we are Baha'is. It is who we are. And I wear my Baha'i ring. My dad wears his Baha'i ring. So everyone knows we're Baha'is at our company and they love us, right? So my executive secretary every day sees my Baha'i ring. And several weeks ago, she asked me to send, she asked Ehsan, can you please describe your Baha'i ring? What does it mean? So I explained the whole thing, right? I explained to you, what is the first line? What is the second line? What is the third line? And what is the connecting? What are the two stars? I said, this is the Baha'i ring. I explained the whole thing. And this lady was so awed and loved the explanation and said, Ehsan, I want my Baha'i ring. And I explained to her, I said, Miss Melinda, this is, as Baha'is, we wear this. She understood that. She said, I want to wear my Baha'i ring. And if I get it, my sister will want one and she has to have one. And I said, as you know, so she ordered her own Baha'i ring. And it came today and she was wearing it in the office. And she showed me and my dad. She was like, this is my Baha'i ring. I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing, right? And so, you know, as Baha'is, the Baha'i ring is not obligatory. It is a reminder for you to, per se, live the life, stay firm in the covenant. It's also, you know, an indirect tool of teaching, you know. And how interesting, this managed to touch my executive secretary. It managed to touch her sister. And now she showed to her Baha'i ring to every staff member in our office and said, this is my Baha'i ring. And then because also we're doing service as a company, because that's part of, per se, the policy of our company to do service, to go and serve in the food bank, to go do things once a month and do things as a company. And this coming week, we're going to go and present monetary gifts to school and police and fire and things like. But on the bottom of these jumbo-sized checks, I put a quote from Baha'u'llah. And the quote is, man's merit lieth in service and virtue, not in the pageantry of wealth and riches. This is from Baha'u'llah. It's from the Epistle of Son of Wolf. It says, man's merit lieth in service and virtue, and not in the pageantry of wealth and riches. And Miss Melinda, my secretary, God bless her, right? She said, that's a Baha'i writing. And here's my Baha'i ring, by the way. This is my Baha'i ring, and she was showing it. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of interesting how the impact of, you know, daily exposures, you know, just, she's not a Baha'i, she's a devout Christian. She's actually tried to put a lot of poinsettias around our office and everything and make it very holiday tradition. But she also loves the principles of the faith too, right? And so it's just kind of like, how can you lovingly affect another heart? And this is something just through your love for another person. This is just an example. I was giving an example. Anyway, I don't know how I went off on that tangent, but that's just an interesting story of my daily life. This is percentage change in denomination. Okay, this is an interesting chart that came out. This is just a few years ago, 2014. But you can see this one, the non-denominational, has skyrocketed. You see this? People categorizing themselves as, I'm non-denominational. I'm not a part of anything. Has jumped big time in America. And all the other ones have fallen. Lutheran, Baptist, Episcopal, all of them. This is from the beloved guardian, Promised Day has come. Baha'u'llah inculcates the basic principle of the relativity of religious truth, the continuity of divine revelation, the progressiveness of religious experience. His aim is to widen the basis of all revealed religions. He prophesies the inevitability of their unification. This is an awesome quote, and I'm probably going to get my little one, just when she's a little bit older, to memorize this one. This is, in essence, the quote that the beloved guardian is hitting home the principle of progressive revelation, right? One of the fundamental verities of our faith. A revelation is God's disclosure of divine truth. The Baha'i teachings say God has given us several successive disclosures of divine truth. He's opened the portal several times, just giving us a little bit more light every time, sharing us a little bit more of his message every time. But it's the same door. It's in the sense of that is the portal to his grace. It's just he's opening us a little bit more every time. All parts of our progressive revelation that continues to guide humanity. For Baha'is in this day and age, God's revelations do not compete. There's no competition. We never say one is better than another. compete with one another, but instead, all are part of a single, ongoing, continuous, and unified system of spiritual knowledge. This is such a beautiful, fundamental truth of Baha'u'llah. And every single Baha'i needs to internalize and understand this. There is no, when we say, oh, there's no really, we have created these things, these divisions, Christianity, Judaism, Baha'i, whatever. This is all a single, ongoing, continuous, unified system of spiritual knowledge. It's all coming from the same source. We have even created these divisions within our divisions. You follow? The reality is, this is one unfolding faith, one purpose, one voice. And the reality is, we are all here for the same purpose: transformation of our inner life and external conditions for the purpose of the unification of humanity. This is really what it's about. Riaz Jan, you have hand. Befarmai.
Very quickly. In the Book of Certitude, the Kitab Iran, Baha'u'llah clearly, there's a part in there where Baha'u'llah clearly tries to emphasize this unity among the manifestations of God. He says, they are one, they're all one and the same. There can be no distinction between them. If anyone makes the slightest distinction between any of the manifestations of God, he has automatically violated all of them or denied all of them. If you make any special distinction to one manifestation of God, you have already
Violated them
denied all of them. You cannot do that. It's impossible. It's impossible. So I encourage everyone to find that part. It's towards the end of the book, but it's very, I mean, from a philosophical or logical or even mathematical analysis, he's very careful. He in establishing the oneness, the essential oneness of them. Anyway, I just want to bring, but to reinforce the idea that these manifestations of God are essentially the same. One is a continuation of the other one. And if I'm not mistaken, Jesus said, I may be wrong, just from memory, that I shall return in a new name.
Oh, you're absolutely right. You did say that,
under a new name.
Yep.
And Baha'u'llah in the tablet to the Christians, which is available in the book Tablets of Baha'u'llah, currently available, is known as a tablet to the Christians. He starts with that tablet with addressing the Christians, saying, "O Christians, is my name an impediment to your recognition of my being, or is my name an impediment for you?"
Yeah.
To recognize.
Thank you, Riaz Jan. Thank you so much. All right. Now we go to As to Mahabbat, the Apostle of God. Glowing tributes are paid by Baha'u'llah in the Kitab-i-Iran to Mahabbat and his lawful successors. As to the position of Christianity, its divine origin is unconditionally acknowledged. The sonship and divinity of Jesus are fearlessly asserted. This is from the beloved guardian. It says, let it be stated without any hesitation or equivocation that Christianity's divine origin is unconditionally acknowledged, that the sonship and divinity of Jesus Christ are fearlessly asserted, that the divine inspiration of the gospel is fully recognized. So as Baha'is, fearlessly asserted divinity of Jesus Christ, divine inspiration of the gospel, fully recognized. The followers of Baha'u'llah do not seek to degrade or even belittle the rank of the world's religious leaders. This is very important, my dear friends. As Baha'is, we should never, ever, ever belittle any of the world's religious leaders, as we are not political. We do not talk about world religious leaders. We do not seek or degrade any of the world's religious leaders, whether they're Christian, Muslim, or any denomination, or any current political or past political leaders. We do not degrade or belittle them. This is not what a Baha'i does. We should conduct or conform to their professions and be worthy of the position they occupy. We should not try to degrade or belittle the rank of these leaders. So wrapping up, I have a few more slides. Thank you as always for your patience. It is important to note that there is nothing in the teachings of Baha'u'llah against the institution of kingship. Because we talked about the fall of monarchy, we talked about the fall of religions, and here Baha'u'llah is saying, I profess, Christianity is true. Jesus Christ, the sonship, divinity, the gospel, and now then he talks about the importance of Islam, and now he goes on and says how important it is that there's nothing in the teachings of Baha'u'llah against kingship, monarchy. So the extinction of the monarchs and dynasties during the last 150 years, just a passing phase in the process of the unfoldment of the world order of Baha'u'llah. Remember, 500,000 years, the faith of Baha'u'llah will be over 500,000 years. So 150 years, just a passing phase, right? On the contrary, in the teachings of Baha'u'llah, the principle of kingship is eulogized. It's praised. So these monarchs that turned against Baha'u'llah, it is because of their decision. It's not that Baha'u'llah was against monarchy. In fact, the principle of kingship is eulogized. The rank and conduct of just and fair-minded kings is extolled. It means praised. The rise of monarchs ruling with justice and even professing his faith is envisaged, and the solemn duty to arise and ensure the triumph of Baha'i sovereigns is inculcated. So this is from Baha'u'llah. And here we find this in Promised Days Come, page 71. The principle of kingship is eulogized, it's praised. Paragraph 129 of Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, the beloved guardian identifies the Baha'i administrative order as the hallmark of the formative age of the Baha'i era. The hallmark. This agency has been given the power to usher in the golden age of the Baha'i dispensation. Now think about that, dear friends. If you are serving on a local spiritual assembly, right? Or if you're serving on any agency, but in the process of this Baha'i administrative order. Right now, we're at the very nascent stage, very beginning stage of what this Baha'i administrative order is going to be. This Baha'i administrative order, in the fullness of time, is going to bring about, usher in this golden age of Baha'u'llah, the dispensation, right? And you, my dear friends, that are serving in that capacity, are an agent in bringing about this process. So you have an incredible role. You have a great purpose. And you also have to, per se, live the part. So as you have a great duty to, in this administrative duty. Finally, the last paragraph of Dispensation of Baha'u'llah. This is such an important paragraph. The beloved guardian hits it home. He's the beloved guardian that warns us. Let me pull that quote. This is so awesome, and I want to stress this to all my dear friends. This is paragraph 130. Let no one, the beloved guardian opens, let no one, while this system is still in its infancy, misconceive its character, belittle its significance, or misrepresent its purpose. Let no one. Remember, it's still in its infancy. How can you judge a baby? This is still a little baby, 150, 160, 100, going on 200 years. Still a little baby. Remember, 500,000 years. This is still in an infancy. This infant faith is still growing. The administrative order is growing. It was only 1937, the first 7-year plan. We're only at 2022. We're at the 9-year plan. It's just not that far along. But do not ever, the beloved guardian says, do not ever, my final warning, misconceive the character or belittle the significance or misrepresent the purpose of the Baha'i administrative order. While still in the beloved guardian then summarizes the origin and the characteristics of this divinely ordained system in paragraph 130. And there we are. Boom. That is it, my dear friends. That is our presentation of the Dispensation of Baha'u'llah, written February 8th, 1934. And as always, so good to have you. We're checking our time, 8:24. We did pretty well. And as always, it's been an absolute pleasure being with you week after week, month after month, year after year. But through our Advent of Divine Justice course and now our Dispensation of Baha'u'llah course. So as they say, thank you so much. Any questions or thoughts in our last part before we, as they say, close it off?
I think I can, on behalf of everyone, thank you, Ehsan Jan, for giving up your time to us every Wednesday evening and dedicating so much of your time and effort to reviewing and studying before you come to class for us. Thank you.
Yes,
we learned
thank
a
you.
lot. We really did. I did.
Absolute pleasure, you guys. Absolute pleasure. And
I'm so glad I stuck this one out.
no, that's another incredible thing. You guys are truly incredible to stick through Advent, to stick through dispensation. These are long courses. Yeah, absolutely. And the reality is, you know, as much as I have put in, you guys have had the patience and to go through these courses. And yeah, there's a lot of
The
material.
one positive out of COVID was we got to meet you guys and to do these classes with you guys.
That is very true. And I mean, I would have never been able to see all of you guys. I mean, Riaz Jan up in Michigan, Miss Claudia, Miss Yuda, a former Texan, you know, and, you know, I mean, Luann and Marianne, I mean, all of you wonderful souls, and some of the souls that even one soul has left us and gone to another
Realm.
plane, as they say. And every one of these souls has touched us. And
May I say something?
please, dear Tesfaye.
Oh, testify, yeah.
All right. So, well, I didn't talk anything tonight. So, but now what I'm saying is, we've been passing through days and weeks and the months and years so far, been taking, divine, the advent of divine justice, and now the dispensation of Baha'u'llah. So all the writings, the way I see, is to be interconnected, and most of the time, we all individually, we read a lot, and then we are thinking we are high level of knowledge or something, but sometimes you don't know how much you know unless you come and test yourself as a class, come together in discussions, and we learn from each other a lot of things. Now we have a lot of things in our mind. Now when we go out for the service and teaching, we have to know how these things come to our mind, and then how to get, in touch with the seekers, and then conquer the heart of the seekers and try to bring into the faith. That is to be our task, what the guardian is warning, and then all what we are saying every time. So now it is a practice, and then all the time is to be striving for the service, is to be the most important part. It's not about knowing the faith, how to use it, how to say it, how to present it. And then that also, it examines our deepening, how much we become Baha'i, how much we love Baha'u'llah. So this is a way that I'm trying to articulate for you, that the writings are guiding us for everything. So thank you very much, and then having with you and then being together. And I hope we will continue for the next session. Maybe depends to Ehsan to bring us together.
Sure. Thank you, dear Tesfaye. I was thinking, as we're entering into a new year, coming up in January, that we think about our time, and we think about, how can I meet more people and potentially create new friendships? And through my love for Baha'u'llah, it will naturally come. And this will emerge. I will present it. I will not be shy. I will not hide behind proprieties. When I will be courageous and share the message. You follow? So this is something that, I was thinking about Martha Root. She chose a profession, being a journalist, for the purpose to meet as many people on the planet as possible. As we should try to meet as many people as we can in our daily lives, so that we could have that opportunity. The more lines that we launch into the water, maybe one of those lines, someone might be attracted. And the reality is, it is up to him. But the more pure our hearts, the more sanctified and honey-like the words, and closer to the creative word is our voice that comes out, will affect the heart of the person. So that's why we are encouraged to memorize the verses, so that in our speech we can touch another heart. So these are things that we'll be able to, we have another year of coming up of our life. How can we, teaching is an art form, right? We got to work on this art, just like we work on piano. How much are you working on this art form? So in this coming year, that could be your resolution. How can I become a better teacher? And then not just in the sense of practicing teaching, but am I really engaging to meet more people? Not just my usual circle, just the Baha'is, but who am I meeting new in my circle and creating more friends? Because that's all it's about, having more and more friends to be able to potentially share the faith. Anyway, that's it, my dear friends. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Lots of love to every one of you guys, and thank you as always. And wishing you guys the best. Thank you so much.
Allahu
Yeah.
Akbar, everybody.
Before you
Okay.
go, we got a closing prayer, right? So
Okay.
who would like to share a prayer, my dear friends?
I can say one.
Please. Thank you, Zamrija. Thank you.
O my glorious Lord, help me to refrain from every irregular inclination, to subdue every rebellious passion, to purify the motives of my conduct, to conform myself to that meekness which no provocation can ruffle, to that patience which no affliction can overwhelm, to that integrity which no self-interest can shake, that I may be qualified to serve thee and to teach thy word.
Thank you, everyone.
What question?
Riyaz Shah, go ahead.
Will you be able to send us the usual recording of tonight's session?
Of course.
Okay, good.
I will, of course.
Thank you very much.
Riyaz Shah, have a wonderful night. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Allah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Allah.
you. Allah.
Thank you.
Akbar.